fired up about the way the structure is now. I really like how things have gone. Even last year, when we were scrambling around with new job and working 2 classes, it was good. Justin did a great job of putting this together with help from the rest of the staff, and just excited about it. 11 Montana guys, as you mentioned, Eric. It's heavy with Montana kids, which is our way, and we're going to try to recruit every Montana kid that we think can help us win a championship, and then we'll go elsewhere for the rest. We're heavy on the fronts, offense and defense. Again, obviously we've got some deficiencies there, starting with last December. And those things don't get answered in 1 year or 2 years. That's going to be a consistent theme through next year as well. But really like this group of kids. We got a lot of big framed running guys, which is sort of our way of building a football team.
Questions?
Bobby, you mentioned the early signing period. What do you like about it now that it's been a year now?
I think it cleans things up a little bit, just in terms of kids making their decisions, and you don't have to spend time diffusing things at the end. I mean, we had a couple here the last couple of days where you start getting bombs thrown. When you have kids committed to you, a lot of times they get some bombs thrown their direction, and you spend more time talking about a false narrative rather than the nuts and bolts of why you choose a school. So I just think it's cleaned a lot of that stuff up. Kids that want to sign get done. We just as soon have recruiting in our rearview mirror so we can get on to the next season preparation rather than delaying that another 6 weeks. So I think it's good for everybody.
Is there a difference in priorities from the early signing period to the later signing period, or an emphasis change?
No, I think your needs are your needs. And again, that just depends on what your recruiting philosophy is and what you're looking for and how you do it. I think we're not real adamant about signing a bunch of guys early, but when you can get what you think are great players early, then you get them. And so we're kind of done for the most part.
Do you think the fact of being in Montana, you kind of have a lot of guys identified? Does the early signing period have an influence there?
Yeah, I think that locally, certainly everybody knows each other really well. All these guys from Montana we've signed, we've been in close contact with since maybe even you'd say last winter and certainly last spring. And I mean, there's some somewhat late arrivals to the class in that regard, even the Montana kids, but we all know each other, and they've been here and been around us. We've been around them.
Just the one transfer, can you maybe just speak to him?
Yeah, so this is the signing periods. This early signing period used to be just for JCs, guys that could come early and were academically qualified. So that was what this was for as long as I've been coaching. It was an early JC signing period. So Cordell's a guy that's ready to go, both from an academic standpoint and plan standpoint, and good to get him. Obviously, it addresses a need. We're not going to be a team that's primarily based on transfers, either 4-year or junior college. We're not afraid to take a couple of those guys, obviously, but we're going to base it on freshmen. So these are guys that are, any JC guy that transfers in now is coming in January. He's academically ready to do that. And then any other transfer, 4-year or whatever, those guys have already signed a letter of intent, so they don't really have a national letter of intent day.
What do you like about his play on the offensive line, and what do you think he'll bring?
He's big and physical. He's from Kodiak Island in Alaska, so coming out of high school, you don't get a lot of recruiters through Kodiak Island. and visitors in general. But he's big and physical and likes to mix it up. And yeah, I really believe that his best football's in front of him.
When you're recruiting, obviously you probably have certain needs that you want, but is there ever times where you just see athletes and you're like, you know what, he's not necessarily a need, but we just want athletes?
Yeah, I'd say if you look at, gosh, probably almost every kid on this list. I mean, Chris Brown's going to play quarterback, and Cordell Pillins is going to play offensive line. Let me look here. Dimitri is going to definitely be an offensive lineman, but beyond those guys, I mean, everybody on that list can play multiple positions, maybe on both sides of the ball. So, again, you go back and you look at how we were back in the day when we were really a dominant football team. We had big framed guys and guys that could run at every position, and so we're just going to throw these guys in the weight room and see what comes out.
When you compare, especially the guys in Montana that you were able to get in this class with the guys that were coming out with the first time that you were around, is there a difference that you're seeing in just the high school football players that are coming through in general?
No, I don't think. Well, yes, I do agree with that in one part, which I'll get to. But if you look at I think at one point we had 11 guys on NFL rosters that we recruited in here at the same time, which is, phenomenal. A lot of them are Montana kids, so they're all developmental guys for the most part, and so there's good football in Montana. It's well coached. They know how to work. They know how to play hard. The one thing I am seeing is there aren't as many big kids in Montana anymore. It used to be you could pretty much recruit all your offensive linemen in state, and there aren't as many of those guys. There just aren't. And I think part of that is if you look at the way the population of the state has shifted and how eastern Montana has become pretty sparse population-wise, and a lot of those big, farm kids of whatever Scandinavian ancestry we used to get in here, they aren't out there anymore. Those farms are huge, and there's fewer people, and towns like Glasgow and Plentywood, those places are much smaller than they used to be, and then on down the line. So there just aren't as many people in Montana, at least that half the state.
When you're recruiting offensive linemen, what's your philosophy as far as what kind of kid are you looking for?
Well, guys that can play first, guys that are athletic. We've recruited a number of guys off the basketball court over the years, including some of the guys on this list. Dylan Botner is a terrific basketball player. We're recruiting big frame guys that we think can be not only tall by the time they get a couple years in the program, but giant people. And we don't necessarily look for the 6'2", 300-pound guy. That's not our preference.
When you're obviously looking at the tape and know how they play on the field, but when you're going in a living room with a kid, like what are you looking for as far as how they talk with you, or as far as, hey, I want them to be a Griz?
Well, once we get to the point we're in their living room, we're kind of at that juncture where we want them. So we've done all the research. We're the coin flips where we're deciding, and then once we offer them, it flips to them, and they have to decide. So once we get into their home, we're there already. But we do a lot of research. We give them a variety of evaluations, athletically, academically, and character-wise. And we have a formula and a score on each. And if they pass muster, then we get to that point. But we want guys that fit. We want guys that we like, guys that our players like, that are like-minded with how we're going to operate around here and how we're going to produce wins and graduates. So those things have to come together before we even get in their living room.
Coach, 2 guys from Bozeman, 1 guy from Cheney. What's unique about that when you're kind of going into enemy territory for a guy?
Well, those guys are they're very talented. Jacob McGowan's, I think he's got a chance to be a special guy. I would compare him to Corey Behrman at this juncture. Now that's a weight to put on a kid's shoulders around here, but he's got big shoulders, he can hold it. And Chris is just a gem. I mean, I think he's got a chance to be really good. And Ryan Simpson's a playmaker, but they're smart guys. You know, they're all smart guys. They can see where this is going in terms of Grizzly football, and you know, our style of play fits them. You know, we're not a triple option team, which essentially they are to the east and then to the west. You know, Jacob likes how we do things around here. So, you know, they're smart guys. They figured it out.
Getting into some new, or I guess not new for you, but new relatively recently, territories like Idaho, going to Coeur d'Alene and Boise to get some kids. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get out of the Northwest much at all, and I don't know why we need to. If we're finding guys we like and they're jumping in, you know, I always think it's best if their parents can drive here for a game and see them, and so do the parents. And you know, when obviously we've got kids from across the country in our program that have had success, but our footprint's Montana and then the neighboring states, and then obviously we'll get into Arizona and California a little bit too.
Alex Hurlbert, obviously a guy that's gotten some national, attention. Just your thoughts on him becoming a Griz.
Yeah, you know, obviously with his, it's a guy signed a Division I football scholarship. You wouldn't say he's got a disability, but when you have one arm, it's somewhat of a handicap. So that's why it's been a national story. He's a special kid. He's a tough guy. He plays with an attitude. He's a great player. I'm just glad he's here with us. And you know, I think maybe people shy away from that, but that's not used as a crutch by him at all. I mean, he's a dominant player when you look at the film, and we're hoping that translates to the college game. And I think
you touched on this earlier, but could you just say a little more about maybe what the difference was here for year 2, but really almost year 1 in terms of a full recruiting cycle, and what you were able to do differently or better because you had a full year coming into it?
Yeah, having a full year, obviously you get to cultivate some relationships and maybe hang on to a couple guys. Like last year, both the early and the later signing date, we had some guys that were coming, and then San Diego State was hard on us. They came in and saw who we were offering and jumped in on them. And so some of my buddies got an earful on that. But recruiting, there's no friends in recruiting. We're buddies again after signing day. But we had a couple guys that have been trying to get them to offer, like 5 a year ago for a year, and then we came up here and offered them. They were in on the next week, so they didn't believe me. I really liked them, I guess, till we actually offered them up here. But, you know, it's just you're entrenched with these folks. And last year, you know, you kind of taken some risks and trying to evaluate in a shorter period of time. And I would say that, you know, 4 years from now, when we come out at the end of this thing, we look at these guys graduating, that we'll probably have a higher percentage of guys that are, you know, all league players in this class than the previous one, just because we've had time to really evaluate.
You mentioned a couple of these linemen playing basketball. I know there's a couple other guys that actually consider playing college basketball, namely Jesse Owens. What's it like when you're
And Ryan Simpson.
And Ryan Simpson too, right? So when you're trying to say, hey, maybe football's a better opportunity, what's that recruiting pitch like?
Well, they have to choose, you know, at some point what the game they love the most is. I think that a lot of us grew up really liking basketball, and you know, it's more comfortable. It's a controlled environment. You come in, shoot some shots with your buddies, you pick up games. You know, football, you're squatting and cleaning and running into people, and you know, blood, broken bones, and all that stuff's outdoors. It's snowing. It's 95 degrees out. You know, there's a different mindset, and that's why, you know, football's not for everybody, and so you have to choose that path. And these guys are definitely football players, and you know, as I said, recruiting guys off of the basketball court is historically for us has been productive. These guys are terrific basketball players, obviously.
You mentioned you feel like you're pretty much done, but is there another position or two or something that you're still thinking will be an addition down the road?
Not really, Derek. We're kind of done. We've got one more spot kind of teed up, and we're hoping to sign one more guy tomorrow. And we've got one kid waiting on another kid, so we'll probably sign one more tomorrow. And then after that, I don't know that. I mean, we really don't have. I mean, you got our number. I mean, my way we take 50, but we don't get to.
Having one of them be your sister's son, what's that like for you?
Means I just got to deal with my mother and my sister more. Garrett knows it.
Bobby, can I ask a cliche?
Yeah, absolutely.
Impact player other than JC Kidd, these youngsters?
Yeah, I should talk about Ryan, and then I'm going to answer that, Guff. Ryan's a good get for us. He had other offers and chose to stay home, and you know, his obviously the family ties to this university beyond his uncle are strong, and certainly he's a good get for us. And getting a guy out of Missoula, and you know, the neighbors pushed really hard on him. I don't know why they wasted their time, but they did. So good. But he's going to be a good get for us. And then Impact. Guff asked me who I thought an Impact player was. I don't know how to answer that all the time, Guff. Because well, and then the other one is, if we didn't think they were all great players, why the hell would we sign them? You know.
They are right now.
So exactly, this guy's the best class in America. Texas be damned. So you know, I don't know. Some of them are farther along physically. So when you look down and you don't know, like the front guys, they're not necessarily going to play next year. But a guy like Jacob McGowan's a guy that's maybe physically ready and can come in and have an impact because he's physically ready. Nick Osmo's a guy that's physically ready. Jesse Owens is ready. Ryan Simpson is ready. So Corbin Walker's ready. Trevin Gradney's ready. So those guys are probably at December 2018 the guys that you would say don't need as much weight room time as the other guys.
Speaking of family ties, Trevin Gradney's dad played for the Cats. So what's it like to kind of swing a legacy kid over to the Griz side?
Yeah, Big Joe. Joe Gradney's a great guy, and I appreciated him being open-minded because that's an interesting thing, especially when you're a former player there and you actually love your school, and to have to come to summer camp and be sitting in the stands and see your kid out there in the middle of this stadium with the head coach's arm around him, tell him it's okay. You kind of have to be okay with it too, and so a lot of respect for the Gradney parents and Joe in particular, because it became really enjoyable recruiting Trevin because we got to have a little rivalry game banter, and Joe was good-natured about it, which allows it to be fun. And I go back to recruiting Kirk and Kelly Timmer's son Ty a few years back. That ended up being fun because it's Montana, we all know each other and are old friends, and it's fun if you let it be. And it was enjoyable to recruit Trevin.
Are there any other kind of guys on this, maybe like a Trevin, when you first start doing the initial screening, you're like, I'm not sure if we have a chance on this guy, but we're going to go for it anyways, and then as the process goes, you're on the fence, and then you end up getting him?
I don't know. We kind of, most of these guys, I mean, that's why we're here in December rather than February, because these guys are all pretty much in with at least 1 foot from day one. So not too much of that this year. Thought we had one, but he didn't make it.
So much talk about the facilities arms race in college football. How much do you think the Champion Center helped you in this recruiting class?
Well, like I always say, I think it really helps both in recruiting and in terms of what we'll do with these guys the next 18 months to 2 years. In fact, now that we're a lot of these people, especially the Montana folks that are familiar with the history of the program, we show them with the old locker room, the old weight room, they can't believe it. In fact, Joe Grady was like, "You won all those games, and this was the weight room." I said, "Yeah, I don't think what we're going to do over here." So I think the biggest impact is when they come in and meet with Matt Nicholson and our strength coaches, and they see what we can do for them in terms of developing them and their ability to play. I think that's a major selling point. And it's not oh yeah, this is a nice place, it's beautiful, but it's what can be done in terms of work, and that's our kind of guy. That's the kind of guy we want.
What's it been like with Justin? He's been here through all the different coaching changes over the years, and he's kind of lead this thing. What's it like having Justin Green with you?
Should I tell the truth or say, "Oh, it's great"? He's tired of me. He needs a break. We're going to take a few days off, but the best part about Justin is obviously he's pretty much Montana Grizzly through and through. When we recruited him and coached him, it took him 10 months to be elected a captain here, and he's never really let go of that. So he kind of captains our recruiting efforts and does just a great job. And the best part is because coaches are generally highly competitive and highly emotional, and he keeps a real level head when we're having some disagreements.